We're in a time where rent-to-rent deals have never been easier to secure. That's because the Renters Reform Bill is coming. So if all you've been hearing lately is no after no after no from landlords and agents, then stick with this video because this might completely change how you approach deals. Right now, we're in a market where landlords are nervous, and that's thanks to the new Labour government. They're hearing Section 21 is being removed, evictions are getting harder, and tenants have more power. Because of that fear, many landlords are either selling up, they're avoiding new tenants, or they're saying no to anything that sounds different. But the irony is, rent to rent actually solves the exact problems that they're worried about. So, what is the Renters Reform Bill? In simple terms, it's legislation designed to give tenants more long-term security, remove no-fault evictions, and increase landlord responsibility. This means that for traditional landlords, they have less control and eviction processes will be longer, and that's where things shift in your favor. So why is rent-to-rent more secure for landlords? Well, that's because when a landlord works with a rent-to-rent operator, they're not relying on a single tenant and the hope that rent comes in on time. They're also not relying on their own ability to manage problems and instead are working with a company, which changes everything. So with rent-to-rent, the landlord gets one fixed rent, they get paid in full and paid on time every single month. Whether the property is empty or full, whether the guests cancel or they don't, whether there's a slow month or not, the landlord still gets paid. And here's the key part that most people don't talk about. If an individual tenant stops paying rent, the landlord has to chase the rent, they have to navigate through long eviction processes, and sometimes they even have to absorb months of lost income. But if a company were to ever miss a payment, the landlord is protected by a commercial style lease. This means that if rent is missed by a company, there are clear breaches in the contract and the landlord can get their property back legally without hassle. In other words, the landlord isn't left powerless or stuck. They have enforceable rights against a business, not an individual. Now that level of certainty is becoming incredibly valuable in today's market, and it means that landlords can make the same income, but for less stress and more protection. So look, rent-to-rent fits perfectly within the new legal landscape. That's because it removes the biggest risks that landlords are scared of, and it gives them predictable income in uncertain times. They're not losing control, they're outsourcing risk, and smart landlords actually understand that. So if you are getting rejected right now, it is usually because landlords don't understand rent-to-rent and they assume that it's risky. Your job isn't to argue with them, your job is to educate them, especially with the Renters Reform Bill coming. So if you have been struggling to secure deals, just know that the market isn't working against you, it's actually setting you up perfectly.